Toolroom's leading lady, Maxinne, joins me in an in-depth conversation about her brand new album, her life, her journey, and she gives loads of tips. Let's jump in. Hey, it's Grahame Farmer from Data Transmission, and today on YouTube, I'm joined by Toolroom's leading lady, Maxinne. She joined me recently on Twitch. I'm a Twitch partner. Check out the video below in the link in the cards. Explains all about my Twitch partnership. And I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays on Twitch. On Twitch, we have all these mad long conversations, long interviews. We have A&R sessions. We have demo listening sessions. We have social media help. We talk about how to send demos. We talk about Spotify. So much over on there. We cover so many grounds over on my Twitch channel. So come and join me on Twitch regularly. Also, I'm now Discord verified. So in the link below, again, discord.gg/Grahame Farmer for my Discord channel. In the Discord, if you don't know what that is, it's a server where you can, there's loads of other producers all chatting about helping each other. Labels are in there. Like, there's so much stuff. There's so many resources inside my Discord server. So come and join us in Discord. So Maxinne joined me recently on Twitch, and we had a really long interview, really good in-depth conversation. We spoke about her brand new album, which is out on Toolroom. We spoke about kind of her journey, like actually in the video below, it's the last time I spoke to her at BMC, and we spoke about since that point to making this album and the whole kind of breadth of what she's been through and how the pandemic and how it evolved and how her music's evolved and how she's been producing, how she's been working with vocalists. It's a really, really good conversation. I really enjoyed speaking to her, and I always enjoy speaking to Max. So let's jump in and watch that video. Let's go. Hey.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Welcome to my disco shed in my garden.
Thank you for having me. Your disco shed is looking very cool. Love it. How you doing?
Cool. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I haven't seen you for ages. Yeah, I think the last time I saw you was at BMC, and like that was a long time ago.
2019 or something, wasn't it? Or
yeah, I was trying to work it out. Was it 18 or was it 19? I think it was like early 19.
Yeah, because that summer was sort of, I think when I spoke with you, we were chatting about the EP that I had coming up on like Knee Deep in Sound, and then also like the residency in Ibiza. So that was all just sort of starting to kick off, which was all really exciting, and it was a wicked summer.
Because that was when you got announced as like being part of the full Toolroom crew. Like, how was that cool? Like, how did that go down?
Yeah, I mean, so I was obviously like, I'd been in touch with Toolroom for a little while in terms of like sending them demos, and I'd gone to their academy down in Brighton at Brighton Music Conference. So I was sending them music, and I think I'd had like a couple of releases out on the comps at that stage, and then I sent them another demo, which was the track that I released with Nikki Darling, who's like a New York-based singer, and that went on to becoming like my first sort of full single on the main label rather than the comps. So that was really exciting, and that kind of opened up a lot of doors, I think. And that was when the team got in touch with me about management and bringing me on board, like to be part of the roster. And then that led on to like the Ibiza season, and I spent the whole summer out there. So I'd say that year was I sort of reached, I feel like in my journey I've reached quite a few sort of milestones, I'd say, in my journey, like getting the Ibiza residency. That was always something that I'd dreamt of. I'd been out in Ibiza for a couple of seasons before that year, playing various smaller residencies. So yeah, it was always like a big goal of mine to get a residency at one of like the super clubs. So when that all happened and Toolroom called me up about that to do the residency for 17 weeks, it wasn't just like a few dates. It was, do you want to play, every single day, every week? And each week it was different. There was some weeks I'd be playing like the warm-up set, some weeks I'd be doing a closing, some weeks back to back with like Siege. I'd play back to back with Wheats and Mark Knight, sometimes in the middle of the night. So it was like really varied, and I think that was kind of that residency really I really got better at my DJing and my craft, and really sort of found my sound, I'd say, like solidly in that year, just because you get to play to like different crowds at different times, and just that experience, you learn so much through that process.
Yeah, I bet that call, like, we're going to take you on as management and we're going to take you to Ibiza. I bet that was like, yes, finally.
Yeah, it was a really good feeling, you know, especially as like, you know, it's when it's something you've been working towards for, you know, several years, and then, you know, it eventually happens. It's a really nice feeling.
Yeah, because I remember when I met you when I was at Brighton Music, because I'd obviously been talking about you for a while on DT, and I knew that you'd done a couple of residencies before that, and they were, like you say, a couple of shorter ones, weren't they? They were just in and outs and in and outs. But were you living Ibiza for that 17 weeks?
Yeah, so I lived out there because I just thought it'd be much easier just to, like, as I'm playing there every week, I'll live out there and just really just immerse myself in, you know, the whole island, you know, go out to other club nights. Like there was, you know, times I'd be going to like Ushuaia and Ants and, you know, High, DC10, Pasha. There was just so much going on. As you know, there's, you know, a club night on every single night of the week in Ibiza. So yeah, I just wanted to like immerse myself in it, and I came back a few times for gigs in the UK. I had some shows in London, and yeah, so I sort of like back and forth quite a few times throughout the summer, and yeah, but mainly over the course of the 17 weeks, I just spaced myself out there.
That's mad. And I bet, yeah, like you say, I bet your DJing come on, like, must have improved so much from just different crowds. That was incredible.
And also just that sound system as well, you know, hearing like music on such a big sound system, and you know, at Eden it's you know, it's wicked in there. So it was such a good experience, really, really good.
And then push forward, and then we kind of hit pandemic.
Yeah, so I mean, so that year, that was 2019, and then I released my first EP on Knee Deep in Sound, and then I came back from the Ibiza residency, so that was like ended in October. I came back and I had a really good run of shows. I had gigs in Belgium, Paris, London shows. I was starting, you know, there's some reaching out to different places in Europe, so things were like really busy. I was gigging every week, and then that was actually like end of 2019 was when the conversation started about making the album. So when I got back, I was just really busy with like production as well. Yeah, that was like when the conversation started. So we didn't even know at this point like the pandemic was going to come. Yeah, just continued on through, and then into 2020, gigs continued. I was playing a lot in the UK, and then March we hit the pandemic, we hit the lockdown, and things changed a lot, and kind of at that point I'd done a lot of the album. I'd say it was really kind of coming together at that stage. So when we went into the pandemic, I think in a way, you know, it was nice, you know, at the same time to just have like all that time to just really focus on the album, as you know, even more than I could have. Like, I think if we didn't go into the pandemic, we were gonna maybe release it a little bit earlier. So probably in like 2020 was the actual sort of plan. But with the lockdowns and everything, it just gave me like loads more time to just focus on the album and just, you know, take a break from it as well. Like, you know, I think it's important when you're making music. This is just something that I've learned over the years, is to, you know, give your ears a rest as well. So, you know, you might be spending hours and hours and hours on that one track or several tracks, but it might sound different if you come back to it in a week. Do you know what I mean? You might hear like, oh, I want to change that clap, or, you know, I need to layer that sound, or, you know, I need to add some more textures in there. And so that I think that really was, in a way, that was something that I took from, you know, being in the lockdowns. And you know, with the whole time that we had, I just sort of thought, you just got to take something positive out of a negative in a way. So I was like looking at, obviously it wasn't a good situation that everyone was in, and, you know, for the music industry it was really, really tough, but I always try and look on the positive side of things, and I was just like, how can I use this time to really make use of this, and, you know, spend as much time in the studio. And yeah, obviously I you know, I enjoy production so much. So for me, I actually really enjoyed just immersing myself in like music every day, you know, just like making loads of stuff, and then obviously finishing off the album.
Was you producing in Ibiza then? Or was it just you focused in Ibiza when you were when you was in that season? Were you still producing them?
Yeah, so I was producing in Ibiza. I'd say because it was busier, I probably wasn't producing as much as, I mean, maybe I was actually. I mean, even when I got back, I was still gigging as much as I was in Ibiza. But you know what it's like in Ibiza. There's just so much going on. There's always people out there. Do you know what I mean? To catch up with and people to see, and every day there's something going on. So I'd say like in that season there was more distractions, so I wasn't spending as much time in the studio. But yeah, I had like ideas I was just working on sort of remotely, working in the box from my laptop and just getting as much done as I can, really.
And then you say the album came along. I'm always interested in how albums start. Like, did you bowl into Toolroom and go, right, guys, we're going to make an album and I need £16 million and we're going to do this and that? And
16 million. Yeah.
How did that start? And what was the thought process?
You know what, I always, like, when I started getting into production, which was like, I don't know, like 6 years ago now, it was always something in the back of my mind that I was like, I'd love to make an album one day. Like, that would be something, because you're with an album, you're able to really show like who you are, your sound and like your influences and your style, and you're showcasing like the people that you've built connections with, like through the collaborations that you're doing. So like it was always something in the back of my head. I was like, okay, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I suppose I wasn't ever going to rush into it. It was always just something that I'd let happen when I felt like the time was sort of right. Yeah, it was sort of like end of 2019. I was sitting down, like Mark was there and some other guys from the label, and the conversation just sparked up about the album. And yeah, it was like end of 2019. And I think, straight away I kind of knew like what I wanted the concept to be like with the album. Like I knew like the direction that I wanted to go with it and what I wanted it to be about, and like sort of like the message that I wanted to get across. So that was kind of easy in a way, because that just felt very natural and organic to me, yeah. which kind of let me know that was the right time to do that in a way, and also I think at that point, end of 2019, was when I'd really built like good connections with people that I could collaborate with. So like if I went back to like 2017, I didn't know many singers, I didn't know many songwriters, I didn't know many other, people who I could collaborate with on the album. So yeah, end of 2019, I felt like I was in a good position to push forward with that. And yeah, so that's kind of just how it all came about. And then yeah, it all just built up from there.
Nice. That sounds cool. And then so you there's a load of singers on there, loads of collaborations. I want to talk about them a little bit further further down the line. Should we play a record? Should we play one for them?
Yeah, let's do it.
You dropped the first track, Tell Me Something, first, didn't you? And that kind of pre-limbed the album. Yeah,
that's right. So that was the first track that came out 2020. Yep. Sort of like May, I think, May or April, May that came out. So yeah, that was the first track on the album, and it wasn't announced at that point like this was going on the album. But that was the first single that was actually made for the album, and yeah, it was a collab with Lauren Lamont. So I'd met Lauren like a couple of years prior to that. Her manager put me in touch with her, and we'd been working on various ideas in the studio, but nothing had kind of materialized at that point. And I think we were just chatting one day on WhatsApp, and she sent me some acapellas, and there was loads of amazing ones in there. That one just stood out like straight away. I knew like that one, do you want to work on that? And yeah, she was like really, really up for it. And I think when we were always working on ideas prior to that, we always sort of knew the direction that we wanted to go in with the collab. So I don't know, the ideas and everything came to us very quickly. So when she sent me the acapella and we agreed to like make the track and go forward with that one, I started building like the drums on it and the bass line, and it was one of them tracks that just came together really organically. And I love that in the studio, when you're when you're making something, you get in a real zone because you're so inspired by like the vocal that you've received, and it just really inspired me. And I just remember like I was just sitting in the studio and I just got locked into this zone, and I was just building the groove, building all the percussion, building all the drums. And I think in a few hours, like I sent her back like an idea, like a first draft idea. She loved it. She added some like musical parts on it, like some stabs and some chords, which were really cool. And yeah, so the track itself we worked on remotely, so we were just sending it back and forth, because I think, were we in lockdown? Can't think if we was in lockdown. I remember we just couldn't get together at that point, so we were working remotely, sending each other the idea back and forth. And it's just one of them tracks that just really flowed well in the studio, and it just all came together quite organically. And we knew the direction we wanted to go in with it. It was, we wanted to go a little bit deeper with that track, and quite, more melodic and more musical. We wanted it to have a lot of emotion, and yeah, I'm just really happy with the outcome of it.
And then that obviously did ridiculous amounts of streams, which is well done, firstly. But that must have been quite inspiring for the rest of the album then.
Definitely, yeah. I was blown away. I didn't imagine it. I didn't expect it to do that many streams. Like I think in the first month it had done like 1 million streams, and then it continued. It's continued building. I think it's on like 2.6 or something like that.
Nice.
Which is mad. So that's like the first track that I've ever released that hit 1 million streams. So it's another milestone for me, hitting that. Was
you nervous about releasing that? Because obviously you're saying that came out in April. That's obviously we were then well in lockdown, no clubs, and
yeah, I think because the track is, it's got a lot of emotion to it, and it's, although it is, it's got that sort of club, that club vibe to it, and it is more of a club track rather than like a sort of radio friendly track. I do feel like you can listen to it in different environments. Like you can enjoy the track, in the car, in the gym, or at home, because it's got emotion to it, and it's got, really, catchy lyrics to it as well. So yeah, I don't think I was nervous. I was just very excited. Like I remember when when I finished it, like we were just really buzzing to get it out there. And I suppose, it wasn't, you could say it wasn't the perfect timing with the clubs being closed, but I'm happy with how it's all turned out and everything. So yeah, I'm just happy that it connected well with, the audience.
Yeah. The collabs you did on them, were they all kind of happened before the lockdown, or did you have to do some in that lockdown period?
So a lot of them were done before, and
nice.
I actually finished quite a few of the tracks, and I was playing them out. So like I had gigs before the lockdown in March 2020, and I was playing out like the Mark Knight collab, the Marck Jamz collab, and the Hayla tracks as well. So I was actually like playing them out and testing them out in the clubs, which was good because it enabled me to go back, make any changes and just, get everything spot on. There was some tracks on there as well that were made in the lockdown, so obviously I couldn't test them out or anything like in that way.
Let's listen to Tell Me Something. Let's play that. So that was Tell Me Something. So yeah, we had a lot of vocalists on the album, and one of my favourite vocalists is DJ Rae. I love her, and I love that she's just, I saw she's a baby, which congratulations, Rae.
Yeah, congratulations.
That's the last track on the album. Let's talk about that one. Let's talk about how that works. I love the acid in it. Tell us about working with Rae, and tell us about that track.
Yeah, so we got together, so it was like end of 2019, that's when we got together, and we had like a writing session and we wrote various tracks. And the first track that actually came out of that writing session was the track that we released on Knee Deep in Sound, which was part of like a 2-track EP that came out earlier on this year. So that one was called Control, and that had a really cool sort of like acidy line on it, which was really cool, which was I made that in like Sylenth. I was literally just jamming in the studio, you know, mucking around, and I came across this really cool sound, and then I just created the melody from there. So I think from that track it really inspired me to, you know, kind of go down that similar vibe with the track on the album, with How Many Times. So I kind of kept to that similar vibe with the acid bass line, and yeah, I just wanted to make something that was, you know, had a really sort of solid kind of groove to it. And again, all of the tracks in the album, I wanted to have like an emotion to them, and that I feel really comes through in that track. I think Rae's, you know, she's such an amazing singer. I've loved her work for many years, you know, even before getting into production. So it was such an honour to work with her, and she's got an incredible voice, and it really just suits like what I wanted, you know, the vibe that I really wanted to get out of that track, and you know, the direction that I wanted to go with. She absolutely nailed it. So yeah, I'm really, really, really pleased with it.
And you said there was a kind of an idea for the album, and there was an idea for the kind of story behind the album. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so the name Red Alert is the album title, of course, and that the name comes from me being a redhead. So that's where the name actually came from, Red Alert.
Yeah.
But the title isn't just about that. For me, it symbolises so many things. So for me, like Red Alert is quite like a bold title, and I really wanted this to kind of reflect in the music on the album as well. So, you know, the music, I'd say, is like musically it's really bold, it's really empowering, and I wanted the album to be about positivity and really make you feel empowered when you listen to it. So that really comes through on the lyrics on the album. So there's tracks on there like the track with Mark Knight and Marck Jamz is about like music empowerment. It's about how music can make you feel empowered and how you become one on the dance floor, like the track with Mark Knight. And Flipside is about uniting on the dance floor, and how you know, music's got to have rhythm, it's got to have soul, and it's got to have emotion. And that's just really something that I really believe in with music, you know, just like all my influences growing up, and you know, all my inspirations are from music that moves me and gives me some kind of feeling. Because I think there's a lot of music out there, and some of it, I don't know, it doesn't, some of it can be, you know, just the drums, and it doesn't have like melodies to it, it doesn't have emotion, it doesn't have soul to it. So for Red Alert, I really wanted to create an album that was soulful, really emotive and empowering, and when you listen to it, I want people to feel really good and inspired when they listen to it. So that was like the kind of theme of the album. And then obviously the Red Alert title, it's not just an album title, it's also something that I really want to build into like hopefully a brand. So I've got plans to do like a monthly radio show, monthly podcast with it. And next year there's plans to do some event series with it as well, and tours. So yeah, I think for me when I was sort of getting into the industry, I always looked up to like people like Mark Knight and Hot Since 82 and Nick Fanciulli. You know, they've all got their own identity and their own brand, you know. So Nick's got Saved, you've got Knee Deep in Sound and Toolroom, and for me, I always was inspired by that when I was getting into the industry, and that was always something that I wanted to build for myself. So that's the plan with Red Alert. I want to really build it up into, you know, my own thing. So that's my identity, and that's my platform.
Okay, let's listen to DJ Rae, and then I want to hear about your influences growing up, because that sounds. I want to get into that. That sounds cool. Let's play DJ Rae. How many times? So let's chat. You mentioned your influences growing up, so let's just chat about that. Who were you into when you growing up, and what music were you listening to?
Do you know what? I didn't get into house straight away. It wasn't a genre that I was listening to from an early age, but I was always influenced by like a lot of music that had a lot of soul in it. So garage, R&B, hip hop. They were the genres that I was listening to growing up. And then it wasn't until I started going to more like festivals and like I did my first season in Ibiza, that was when I started hearing more house music. And I think that it was at that point that I was like, right, this is the genre that I really want to learn to mix. Because I suppose when I was growing up, yeah, I was always intrigued by like DJs and learning to mix. But I suppose at that time when I was going out in my sort of local area down on the south coast, there wasn't a lot of like house events at that time. So it wasn't until I started actually going to the house events, that's when I was like, okay, like this, I don't know, it's like, you know, when you're in like a festival, you know, you're in that stage and that feeling of togetherness and like the sound system, it's just that feeling. I remember it for the first time, I think it was like Lovebox Festival in 2010 or something like that, and that was when I was like, oh, I really want to learn how to mix house. And so I suppose all the influences from my early years like always had a lot of soul in them. You know, they always had some sort of like emotion and really nice singers on them. I suppose when I was getting into house, I was inspired by a lot of the tracks coming out on like Toolroom and Knee Deep in Sound. You know, Knee Deep in Sound's got that very sort of like emotive sound to it. So that was like my sort of biggest inspirations when I was getting into house music.
Yeah, that 2010, 2011, 2012 era was like deep house, hot creations. Cami Jones releasing great music, and that Skyro remix. Yeah, that was a great time for house music.
And like the early Hot Since '82 stuff, you know, that was still great tracks today. Still tracks that I absolutely love today. So they're sort of the inspirations, I suppose. Like, but I was always into music and dance as well, like from an early age. I did like dance at college and stuff, so that was always in me. You know, music was always in me, and it was always in my family. My mum listened to a lot of music, so did my dad. So I was always around it, and but it wasn't until I started going to like more like festivals and when I went out to Ibiza the first time, that like sort of really inspired me. Just hearing like music in the, you know, on the big sound systems in the clubs, and that really exposed me to it more. And then the more I was getting into it, that I grew a bigger love for it. Like the more I was getting into it. So, and it's just grown and grown over the years.
That's cool. Which you said you did a year in, you did a season in Ibiza. What year did you do that? That must have been some fun.
Well, the first full one was 2017. That was like like a full season.
Yeah.
But before I went there for the first time in 2010.
Nice.
That was just on a holiday.
Yeah.
But that was I I don't think at that time we didn't go to a lot of like the bigger, like the super clubs. But in 2013, that was when we went to like DC10 and Pasha and Amnesia. So yeah, that was like 2013. But it wasn't until like 2017, that was when I did like the first full season. So I just finished university, end of 2016. I just finished uni, and I'd spent 3 years in London getting into DJing and production, and also doing this alongside my university degree. And when I finished my degree, that's when I was like, should I either go into like a full-time career that I probably in a few years I might end up not liking, or changing sort of thing, or follow something that I absolutely love, and something that was doing every single day. I was spending at that time for uni, I was spending every day doing a bit of production. I was gigging every weekend, like sort of locally around London. So I knew, like towards the end of uni, I knew like I wanted to make this like a full-time thing. So it was either go into a full-time career or go for music full-time and put everything into that. And I think, I don't know, with me, I've kind of always been like all or nothing, I'm sort of like, I'm either all in or not. I don't like doing things half-heartedly, and I like to give something 100%. So yeah, I just made the decision to go at it full-time. And I actually moved out to Ibiza sort of end of 2016, and it was the winter time. So I've actually got a friend who lives out there, and he had a apartment to rent, and he was like, he's Spanish, he's from there, and he was like, winter in Ibiza is great for networking. Obviously the island's a lot less busy, but there's local residents there, people who run the events and stuff there. They've got a lot more, they're not as busy, so you're more likely to chat with people on the island in the winter. So he was like, why didn't you come out here and just focus on like your production? For me, it was a no-brainer. I was just like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. I was gigging at the time. I was gigging in London, so I had to kind of sacrifice, turning down gigs in London at that time. But for me, I wanted to really focus and put all my attention into production. So yeah, I did the sort of winter season, end of 2016, going into 2017, and then I spent the summer out there in 2017. But I was sort of like coming back and forth, I was coming back to the UK and then going back out there. But it enabled me to just literally have no distractions. I was just putting all my time into production, and then that was when, I think it was like early 2017, that's when I got my first comp release on Toolroom. And then I started going to like the Toolroom Academy events, and yeah, that's kind of how it just sort of like built up. But I did like 2017 season in Ibiza, and I think I came back in the winter, and then I did a season in 2018, came back, and then the 2019 season was the one with the Toolroom residency. So all in total, it was like 3 years, like back and forth.
I think that's where I first came. I think that's when we first met in 2017. I think we did some stuff. You did some mixes for me in Ibiza for Ibiza something. Then around then, I think I became aware of you then. Let's play another track.
Yeah, let's do it. What should we play?
Let's play. I mean, it feels wrong not to play the one with Mark, because you've already mentioned that and the story behind it. So let's play the one with Mark. Let's talk about We Are Listening after that, because I know you're a big part of it, and I've been a big fan of it for a long time. So we'll talk about that next. Let's go back into. So this is you, Mark, and MC Flipside. I'm a big fan of MC Flipside too. His vocals are amazing. I mean, you mentioned it before. Is there anything else you want to add about the track?
Yeah. So again, with this one, like the lyrics on this track are about how music's got to have emotion, it's got to have soul, it's got to have funk, it's got to have rhythm. No matter kind of what genre it is, it could be techno, it could be house, disco, tech house. The whole ethos of this track is how music's just got to have soul to it, and that's something that's really close to my heart. It's something that I really sort of believe in. in terms of music, that's something that I look for when I'm downloading records or listening to promos or sorting out playlists for my sets. That's something that I really look for in music. So he absolutely nailed the vocal on this. He sent it back to us. We had like the instrumental sort of there. It was kind of done and laid down. Me and Mark have been working on it remotely, and then he sent the vocal back. It was quite a long vocal. There was a lot more to it, but we kind of picked out parts and just sort of showcase the parts that we wanted to, bring through in the track. So yeah, it's a high energy track, this one. Definitely, great for the clubs. I played it out before the lockdown, and it was a really good response. So I was so, super excited for it to come out, but also I was like, I just wanted to continue like playing it as well in the club. So it's been nice now. Like now I've been gigging back the last couple of weekends. It's been nice to be, finally playing it out.
Right, let's play this track, and then we'll carry on. Let's go back into that one. So what they're saying in the chat, someone wants the Hulk smash for that one. We can have the Hulk smash. Smash! Earlier, before you came in, we were talking about meal deals. What is your go-to selection when you go to a meal deal? When you go for your meal deal?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I actually got a meal deal today, and I'll tell you exactly what I had. I had a ham and mustard sandwich.
Nice.
And I had it with a fruit pot, like strawberries, grapes, and then I bought one of them. It's like the smoothie, like the green. What are they called? I can't remember.
Green machine ones. Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah,
I have that one. That's one of my go-tos, the green machine.
It's got like kiwi in it, apple, cucumber, mango. It's sort of like a health juice. So that's what I had earlier. But I also really love like the pasta pots. Like the basil, the tomato basil-y one, like the creamy sauce of like chicken. That one I really like as well.
Are you a healthy eater? Are you an exerciser?
Well, actually saying that, I mean, through the lockdown, I've been really sort of getting a lot more into like cooking.
Nice.
So it sounds a bit boring, but I just wanted to start cooking things from scratch and just experimenting. So I've been cooking loads of stuff from scratch, like curries,
nice,
lasagnas, just loads of things. But I am a lot more into like eating a lot more vegetables now. Like I'd say I'm more plant-based. Like I do eat meat, but I've cut out a lot of meat. I don't sort of eat like red meat. I tend to eat just like white meat, like chicken, or I have like salmon. But I tend to eat like a lot more sort of like a plant-based diet. And I've really, really enjoyed it actually. I feel like good for it. Yeah, I've got like more energy and stuff. And yeah, in terms of the gym, I do go to the gym. I try and run on the road, or I'll go to the gym. But I'm trying to like up my time at the moment. I'm not doing very well at the minute. So I'll do like half an hour to like 45 minutes.
Nice.
But yeah, I need to improve that. What about you? How long do you run for?
Long. So I run a lot. I've done like 850 kilometers this year. Yeah, I'm doing So basically I started doing these medals during lockdown. There's an app it's called Conquer, and it's amazing. And basically you actually get physical medals. Like they set you that you have to run like 60, 70k, and then a medal comes in the post. And it's a proper weighty medal, and they have loads of different ones where it's like all over the world, and you track where you're going on the map. So it's like it's pretty like you enter how far you've run, and it moves you along. And every time you go past 20% of the journey, they plant a tree they plant trees. So it's kind of giving back as well. It's pretty cool. I'll send you the link. It's pretty cool. So I've been doing them, and I've been doing this year-long medal as well, where it's like you've got to run from Land's End to John O'Groats virtually, and that's like 1,400 kilometers. So yeah, I do love running. I like going out and just everything switches off. Like
I tend to try and do it in the morning, just to kind of give me more energy through the day, and it helps me. I feel like more once I've done an exercise or a run in the morning, I just feel a lot more focused and like clear-headed. So
yes. So that last track we listened to was Mark Knight. Did that obviously working with these big time producers like these big producers that have been around the game for a long time, like Mark and Gene Farris? Did that kind of level up your production first and foremost?
Yeah, I'd say I learned a lot through that process. Like I suppose when I first started production, like Mark was always like a person I would dream of doing a collab with. So, but again, so like I said earlier, I wanted to always do these collabs when it felt right and when the time felt right and when I built that sort of bond and that connection with the person I'm collabing with, because I think it's really important when you're doing collabs to have that that good relationship with that person, so that you're comfortable to be able to say, can we change that, or I don't like that, or can we try this out? And that's what I'm really proud of on the album, is every single person who I've collaborated with, I've got a genuine relationship and connection with every single person on there, and I've kind of met them all organically as well through my journey. It wasn't necessarily like, I'm making an album and I'm going to now reach out to these like new people that I've never worked with before. It was sort of like celebrating people who I've already worked with before and people who who I have built a strong connection with. So yeah, I learned a lot through that process. Like Mark's he's got such a good like vision for things, and he's got a really good ear. So when we were sending each other ideas back and forward, like he listened to the idea and he added like an extra element, like the melody that I created. He added like this extra layer, and I really like the sort of synth sound that he put on that. And he brought out that like Mark Knight energy as well in the track. So, especially going back to his sort of like earlier sound, which is something that I really, really like. And I'm really happy with how it came out.
And then let's talk about. I've seen a couple people in the comments asking about how you started learning to produce, and your kind of your production journey. Were you self-taught? Like, how did that all start?
Yeah, so initially, the internet is such a great tool, and for anyone getting into production, I would just advise to make the most and use every single tool possible that you can on the internet. There's so much information out there, and sometimes it can be overwhelming because there's just so much on the internet, but it's there right in front of you. Do you know what I mean? If you've got the internet and you've got the laptop, you literally got the tools to learn anything that you want. So I was always curious about production, going back to sort of like 2015, and I downloaded Logic at the time. And I now use Ableton 11. I recently switched, but when I started on Logic, and I was just literally like watching a lot of YouTube videos and trying to learn sort of like the basics at that stage. And then I started coming across like tutorials online that you could pay for, like £30, £20, £40, some really good tutorials that will literally take you through the whole process from start to finish. And I think I sort of bought a few of these. I didn't want to sort of like overwhelm myself with like too many, because I think everyone has different production like advice. So I didn't want to get like confused with like one person saying one thing and then another person. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to kind of just focus on one at a time. So I downloaded, I think it was like, I had like the D Ramirez course, and I think maybe like an older sort of like Left Wing Cody one was really good. I think there's one on YouTube that they've got that really, really taught me a lot as well.
Are they the Fader Pro ones? Because I remember Toolroom were doing
Yeah.
Fader Pro at that time, around that time.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I just started like teaching myself and learning online, and then the more I got into production, I started then meeting other producers, and as you're DJing, you chat to people, and they're also a producer, and I used that opportunity just to ask other people questions and share my ideas with other people. If you know other producers, then get chatting to them, get networking, and just try and absorb as much information as possible. So yeah, I suppose sort of like 6 months into production, so I was pretty like early on in the production journey. That was when Toolroom had the Toolroom Academy event down at Brighton Music Conference. So I went down to that, and I think I handed in the demo. So I had a demo ready at the time. It was really early on, so I knew my music wasn't up to a level yet, but what I wanted to do was just like get feedback on it, and I was just curious to like learn and keep getting better, so I handed in my demo, and I think they played it out at the demo drop, and they played it out in front of like the whole room. There's like 200 people there, but it was such a good experience just to like get feedback and hear from the A&R team. Do you know what I mean? This is what they do every single day. So to get their feedback on it, I remember I took away what they said, and then I just continued like working on it and keep practicing. So yeah, I suppose through the years it's just been a mixture of learning from other producers, going to a lot of these live events, handing in demos, getting feedback from labels, and then it's a mixture of sort of self-teaching yourself and trial and error, isn't it? It's it's the more time you put into something, the more you're going to find your sort of like identity and your own sound. And at the start it's not simple. At the start it's like there's just so much to learn, and you want a certain sound, but it's not coming out like that, so it can be quite frustrating. But if you just enjoy it, enjoy that process, if you enjoy production, then you're gonna want to just like keep spending time on it. And over time, over the next year, if you keep putting in the work, you'll listen to your music, you'll be like, I'm really happy with it now, and it's getting better.
I remember that must have been like nerve-wracking as hell, like 200 people and Toolroom playing, and you must have been like,
Well, especially because I just was so early on, I was so early on in the production phase. I knew my music wasn't up to a level where it was anywhere like where I wanted it to be. But for me, the most valuable thing was just putting yourself out there. Is you just don't know what opportunities can come from it. And I suppose from that day, that's when I started. That's when I first met like all the guys at Toolroom. I met Mark that day. I met the A&R team, and when they can put a face to a name, that is really helpful, because labels receive hundreds of demos every single day. So to show yourself at an event and hand in your demo and get chatting to the team, that was something really valuable that I took away from that. And that's when like the sort of relationship built from there with the label.
Let's talk about We Are Listening, because then you were at the first one, and then you're the face of We Are Listening. So tell us about We Are Listening. I know about it, but obviously some of these guys and girls in the chat don't. So tell us about it, and tell us about what it's all about.
Yeah, so We Are Listening is a platform that Toolroom created for. It's a platform to encourage women in the music industry to just get involved and it doesn't matter what level you're at. You could be starting out, or you could be, really experienced, but it's a platform where they host like live events, production classes, where people can come together, they can network, you can learn about production, learn about, marketing, how to build a career in music. Yeah, it's just such a encouraging platform. Like I remember when they put out the first post, I think it was, I don't know, 2000. 17 maybe or 18, but they put out a post asking for people to submit in demos, and I sent mine in, and then they chose like 10 tracks to give feedback on, and then the label gave feedback on the tracks. And I think it was shortly after that was when they announced that they were going to do like a live event at the actual Toolroom HQ. So they had, I think Ben Remember was hosting a production class. They had like all the team from Toolroom were there, like doing a session. Like there was a session on like marketing and like branding, how to sort of like, you know, market yourself as an artist, and how to build like a brand that's unique to you, and finding that, which was really useful. And yeah, obviously like from that day, like I met loads of other girls in the industry. Loads of girls we've gone on to become really good friends. People have been like playing out together since then. People have gone on to release, you know, music on really good labels. Like Alicia's, you know, gone on to play some amazing gigs since then, and release her music on like Kaluki. And so yeah, there's just so many, there's, you know, some really great stories that have come out of the platform, which is wicked.
Yeah, and I think yes, Carly Wilford obviously had one out this earlier the year, and she had one on Radio 1, and like there's so many people come out of that platform. It's been so great for the industry.
Yeah, I think what's key is, I think what's just important is it just encourages people, like, because you know, where it is a sort of male dominated industry, you know, women might not feel like, oh, can I make a career? Or, you know, they might feel a bit intimidated, or they, you know, they don't want to make that first step. But the platform really helps women to just come forward, and just encourages people to, you know, send in their music, and you know, get their music heard. So yeah, there's been quite a few events now. So they've had like, I think they've had like 3 live events. They had the conference online, which was through the lockdown, which was really good. They had like Nervo doing a panel, and
nice.
Yeah, loads of people, really, really good. So they're going to continue on with that. And yeah, it's just a great like sort of community as well. Any girls watching today, there's a Facebook group, We Are Listening. You can join that. And it's just a place for people to like share. If you've got like a new mix that you want to promote, you can pop it in there. Or if you've got a question, you know, if you know you want to know something about a gig that you've got coming up, like, you know, anything, you can ask any bit of advice. Everyone's really supportive, and everyone's there to just encourage people and help each other.
Yeah, excellent. I guess people that attend those events, even if they like, obviously Toolroom is a well mixed company anyway, and if you people that attend those events, and if they'll see a lot of people see a lot of male female working in that in the industry generally. So even if it's not from a DJ point of view, they'll see what other roles females can do generally in the industry as well.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
which
there's
is amazing.
So many. That's the thing. There's so many different like directions you can go in the music industry. You know.
Cool. Okay, let's get back to the album, and then let's play music. Then we'll get into New Music Friday. We'll play one more from the album. I really like "I Need You." So let's talk about that. You've done 2 with Hayla.
Yeah. Hayla. Yeah.
Hayla. You did 2 with her. Let's talk about her, and I'm assuming it's her. Sorry if it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hayla is, I met Hayla a few years ago now, I suppose. We had our first track out on Save Records, which is called Running, and it came out on one of the comps. And for me, like, Hayla's voice is like spot on in terms of like the vibe of the sort of sound that I want to get with my tracks, and stylistically, like her vocal is just, her voice is amazing. So yeah, we got in the studio like 2019, and I had some instrumentals that were like, I'd say sort of like half done, 75% done. And we sat down and I spoke to her about like, you know, the vibe that I wanted to go with the tracks. We went through some sort of like reference tracks as well, and she absolutely sort of nailed it within like the I Need You track. She wrote those lyrics like when we were in the session, you know, starting off by just like sort of like jamming, listening to the track and the instrumental, and then she'd like hum a melody and get a vibe going, which was really fun. It's really cool to see how, like, you know, she came up with the lyrics. And from there she'd like record it into her voice, like her phone, just like the melody, and then from there she'd write out the lyrics. And I Need You is like a really sort of, it's a track on the album. I feel like it's quite empowering, like lyrically and, you know, production wise. It's got that sort of like catchy synth melody, and her vocal kind of, it's the same melody as the synth melody, which I think is really cool. So yeah, we recorded that, and then we recorded See Right Before My Eyes as well, which is one of the tracks on the album that's been really well received actually. And yeah, I'm just really happy with how it all came out. Again, like, just the vibe that she brings to the tracks is absolutely spot on in terms of like what I wanted to get out of them. So yeah, I'm really pleased.
Let's play it. That was cool.
Thank you.
What synth did you use on that? They're asking you in the chat.
So that is it's not actually a plugin. So that is it's a stab sound from a sample pack, and then I think I repitched it, and then I just if you get the sound, like the sample on its own, and create a MIDI channel. I use Ableton 11, so I created a MIDI channel, and then I just dragged the sample in, and then I just created a melody from there. You can just, you know, use the MIDI keyboard and just vibe and just jam away. And I just came up with the melody. And then I think I sort of played around with on the simpler in the MIDI channel, you can play around with the settings. So there's like a frequency cutoff you can play around with, and then you can play with like the decay and the sustain and the release. So yeah, sometimes, you know, you don't have to overcomplicate it, and you don't always need, you know, fancy plugins. Sometimes if you find a really cool sample, then, you know, and you like that sound, then there's nothing wrong with using that and just recreating it, making it unique to you, and making it a bit more original.
Obviously, on this album, you've worked with a load of vocalists. Have you got any tips for working with vocalists? Because obviously, they must be all different. They must be. I've heard they're delicate creatures, vocalists. What have you learned from it with this process, and what would your advice be with them?
It's a really good question, because I get asked that quite a lot. And one thing that I would say is, like, if you're sort of like a newer producer, don't be afraid to reach out to vocalists, even if you think they've got like more experience than you. Don't be afraid to reach out to them, because if you've got an instrumental that you really like and that you believe in, then they might really like that as well, and they might really want to write to that. So just going back to like when I first worked with a singer, so Nikki Darling was the first singer, and she's from New York. Just to sort of give you an idea of like how I reached out to her and got working with her. On Instagram, it's such a good tool, and I encourage anyone to use it to search for new singers. You can search like different hashtags on Instagram. So I searched like, I think it was like hashtag vocalist or hashtag singer, and I just spent like some time one evening just scrolling through, just looking at different like posts from singers, recent posts, and then I came across Nikki, and no, straight away, like, I loved her voice, I really liked her vibe, and I knew like that was the kind of vocal that would really suit the instrumental that I had done for it. So I reached out to her, dropped her a message on Instagram, and then she got back to me within that week, and she was really up for it, and she really liked the instrumental, and then she wrote to it. So don't be afraid to reach out to people, because you just don't know, like, who, what time they have free, and they might really want to work with you. They might love your music, and they might love what you're about. So that was like the first singer that I worked with, and then we went on to release like another track after that on Knee Deep in Sound. So it's good to kind of, once you've built that connection with one singer, you can use that singer again in other tracks. Just thinking of like the other singers in the album, so like Hayla, I met Hayla through, I think it was like through her management, and then same with Lauren Lamont. And again, just going back to what I said earlier, I think when you're working with singers, like, it's important to have a good like bond and a good connection with them, because you want the track to be right, both of you do, so you need to be like comfortable with each other to be able to say, like, can we change this, and can we try this, and I'm not really feeling that, like, can we go back and do that bit again? That's really important. I think that's something that I really have with Hayla. All the singers on there, but just to give an example, like Hayla, I sat in with the studio with her, and some of the singers I work more remotely with, but like with Hayla, Lauren and Rae, we sat down in the studio, and it was a fun process. You've got to sort of really enjoy that process, and love working with them. So I think the key thing is, once you've found a singer that you really bond with and you have that good connection with, then just keep working with them. Me and Lauren, we've just finished like another single that, well, hopefully a follow-up single to Tell Me Something, which is just a fun, it was a fun track to make, because we both knew like the direction that we wanted to go with it. I love her vocal, the vibe of my production really suits like what she's about as well. So
have you changed your process now from, obviously that first track you were saying made the instrumental, then found the vocal? Is it now like, well, I have the vocalists, let's plan something together, or is it still drums, instrumental, then vocals?
That's a really good question, and that's something that I've sort of covered in the in September I'm doing my first like online production course with Toolroom.
Hooray!
Yay! And that's something that I really wanted to cover in there, was about the process of building a track, like how I go about starting a track, because everyone's different, everyone works in different ways. But something that I've kind of learned over the years, like when I first started producing, I would like start building the track with like the drums first, and then start arranging it, and then I'd finish the track, and then I'd be like, it's kind of like missing, I feel like it's missing that sort of main kind of, it might be like a lead sound, like a synth sound, or it might be like a hook or a texture or a tone, just something that really differentiates the track from other tracks and gives it like character. And then I'd finish the track and be like, now I've got to go back and like do that, find that bit. And not every track has to have like a vocal, it depends on what type of track you're trying to make, but it might be like the synth sound or the hook or the melody that you want. But what I've kind of learned over the years is, if I find that first, that lead melody, or that lead hook, or that sound that's going to really stand out in the track, if I spend a bit of time researching that bit and getting that bit first, that really helps to build the rest of the track a lot more, not quicker, because it's not like I want to finish the track quick, but just the flow of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, the flow of the whole production process will just be a lot more smoother, and just a lot more sort of straightforward. So what I always tend to do is find the lead sound first, the lead melody or the lead vocal first, and then from there it just inspires like a lot of ideas. So then I'll go on to like building like you know, I'll lay down like the kick drum, and then I'll build like the bass melody, and then I'll start building like all the other percussion elements in, like, you know, the hi-hats, the claps, you know, the little percussion bits and the grooves. So that's just my way of working. Obviously everyone's different, but I kind of learned that as well from some other people, and I feel like that is a way that can really get your workflow working really well in the studio.
Is someone asked, is that course going to be one of their a pre-recorded thing, or is it going to be like their production certificate one's a live one?
It's a pre-recorded one.
Cool.
Yeah, so it'll be like one that can be bought online. So yeah, I think it's coming out in like September time.
Crew, we will let you know in the Discord when that comes out. Someone's asked for the Rae form. We have the Rae form. One thing you're obviously very strong on is social media. One of the questions in the chat was, how much time do you give yourself weekly, monthly to kind of work on that? And also, one of the things I was thinking is, when you went into the album process and recording that album, did you step away from social to give yourself that headspace of being in album mode? Or were you still active as social as that time as well?
I was still active, definitely. I think now it's quite important to be quite consistent on so, like, you want to naturally engage with the people that are supporting you. So for me, I'd spend every day, like, I'll go on social media every single day. There won't be like many days. I mean, there might be some, you know, weekends that I'm not on it as much, but, you know, there is a point in the day where I'll check it. When it was the album, I suppose I was, I mean, when I get in the zone in terms of production, I can switch off. I don't really get like, when I'm making a track that I really am buzzing about, I don't really get distracted like that. But if I was making a track that I wasn't really feeling, you know, I was a bit like, oh no, this process isn't really, it's not coming together. How, you know, I might get a bit distracted and go on my phone, and then it breaks the workflow. I don't know if there's a specific time that I'd say I spend on there, but what I do, and I have kind of been doing recently is, you know, I kind of like to plan ahead. So like content wise, I'll be thinking ahead, you know, like ahead of myself for the next week. So like, what have I got coming up? You know, what gigs have coming up? What releases are there? Have I got any guest mixes? Am I going out and about? You know, if you're out and about and you're not at home, obviously it's been hard through the pandemic, so we've all been like locked down, but actually that's actually taught me kind of how to think outside the box in terms of content, because when you're in lockdown, it's like, you know, you're literally at home. So that's actually made me be a lot more creative, which has been really fun, to be honest. But yeah, I kind of like always just sort of like think like 1 week ahead, and if I've got cool things coming out, if you're out and about, then, you know, make sure you get some shots if you can, or, you know, when you're gigging and traveling and things like that. So I'd say there's not really a set time that I would spend on there, but I think you don't want to get too distracted. I think that's important. If you're a producer, in order to get the tracks done and get them out to the labels and stuff, you don't want to be getting too distracted on social media. It's just, you know, you need to be focused.
Wicked. Thank you so much. I'm very conscious of time. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really good to catch up with you and chat. It was really fun.
I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got to this point. Again, it's a long one, so I hope you got to this point. If you did and got to this point, comment below here in the comments below. Just drop a little word here, so I'll let me know how many of you watched it all the way to the end. I'd love to know. Let me know your biggest takeaway from this video as well. Drop that in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, like it, subscribe it, all that sort of stuff. It all helps the algorithm push this video to more people. We'd love more people to see it. It was a really great conversation. I'm back on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, 1 PM to 5 PM. And I will see you in the next video. Cheerio. Bye-bye.